Hey everyone, my name is Olav, and in this video we will take a closer look at the P1000 Rat Lancers tank, which I made and rigged in Blender. And what's special about this tank is that you can both move it forward, backward, rotate it, and also make it interact with other objects because of its complex rig. You can get the tank model at my Patreon if you're a gold member or a platinum member, but if you do not have the model, I think you can still learn something from this tutorial. We're also going to take a look at how we can animate the barrels very easily using shape keys, and how I set up the rig for the rotation of the turrets as well. As always, it is going to be quick and easy, so let's get started. Okay, so here we have the model inside Blender, and as you can see, I've already set up a very basic animation for the gun barrels and the turrets. I'm going to show you how to animate the tank itself later, but as you can see, we just use a very basic shape key animation to animate it. So it's first going to go backwards and then forwards again using the shape key values. And the rotation of the turret is just the turret set parent to an empty, which makes it easier to control. You can also see that I use an empty to rotate the gun barrels as well, and it has a constraint which limits its rotation on the x-axis, which is useful. And this is the anti-aircraft gun. As you can see, it's quite simplified. And this turret also has a rotation constraint, but this time for the z-axis. And this is the empty that controls the motors of the tank. And you will see that we go into the empty for the motor and open a new window. You can see that we have drivers. And these drivers makes us able to control both the left and right tracks by moving the control cube. So the location of the control cube controls the target velocity for the motors, both for the left tracks and the right tracks. And that way we can control the tank completely with just that one cube. Okay, so let's set up a very basic animation for the tank by using the control cube. Controlling the cube is actually really simple, so let's start off at frame 1 and then keyframe the location of the cube. Let's go forward to frame 100, for example, and then we're going to make the tank go forward. So let's set the y value to -2, for example, which means that the value increases from frame 0 to 100, so that we have full speed at 100. And then we can have that speed until frame 1000, and then let's keyframe the y value once again. So it's the same until frame 1000. And then let's go to frame 1100 and set the y value to 0, which stops the tank. And then we can go to frame 1200 and make the tank rotate. So press G, then X, or change the X value under location. So let's set it to 2, and then press I to keyframe. And then it can rotate until frame 1600, and then press I to keyframe. And then at frame 1900, we'll set that value back to 0, and then we can make the tank go backwards as well. Press I to keyframe, and then at frame 2000, I'm going to set it back to 0 so that the tank stops completely. Okay, and then we go into the rigid body world settings. And then I'm going to set the end frame to 2000. And then save before I continue. And then we can bake the simulation. And this is going to take a long time, but once the bake is done, you can see that we have the tank simulation. And as you can see, I also added an obstacle in the way of the tank so that we get a more interesting simulation. So as you can see, it's very easy to set up and you get really cool results. As you can see, it rotates and then goes backwards at the end. And that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. And make sure to check it out on Patreon as well. And thanks to my Patreon supporters for supporting these videos, Mr. Monkey Shoes and Terry Davis.